If you've been following me for very long at all here on YouTube, then you know that I offer an online dating coaching course, and I also do a lot of one-on-one Zoom coaching sessions with guys, helping them to build high-impact profiles that get results. Now, if you've been watching me for any length of time as well, you probably know that I talk a lot about having good quality photos, because the thing is that one of the things is without incredible photos, it can be really hard to get the results you want to get on any of your online dating platforms. One of the obvious solutions, of course, is to go out and find a professional photographer. They can go out with you, take some incredible photos, and you'll be the king of Tinder and you'll have more dates than you know what to do with, right? Well, here's the problem. In spite of paying really good money, that is anywhere between $200 and $500, about 60% of the guys who I work with who have gone and gotten professional photos have ended up with subpar photos. So if you'd like to discover what I've learned from my clients in their journey to find good photographers, both the successes and the failures, keep watching. So what are the common reasons that I'm seeing so-called professional photographers get really poor results for guys? Well, there's a couple of things that I see. Number one is when guys go for the cheapest, the absolute cheapest option, they don't do any due diligence. They just go, this person's cheap enough, I'm going to go with them. They say professional on the website, they must be good. And I've seen some doozies when people go for the cheapest available. That is, I've seen guys go out and with photos and the photos are crooked, really shonky editing where the photos are either way too dark, you can't see the face against the brightness of the backdrop, like poor composition in a photo. I've seen parts of their heads being cut off. I've seen blurry images like where the face isn't actually perfectly sharp. I've seen a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, when guys have gone for the cheapest option. And the worst thing is, I'm going to talk about this later, cheap doesn't necessarily mean bad, but if you're going to go for the cheap end, you're going to have to do a little bit of due diligence. The second thing I often see is guys go out and they get a really high-end photographer, and the problem is that photographer is really a studio photographer, and studio photos are not at all good for online dating profiles, usually, very rarely anyway. And so what you need to do is go out in the wild and get sort of photos of you in the wild, things that are a little bit more candid. And the difficulty is many really professional photographers, they're so focused on getting technically great images of you looking blue steel that you end up with a lot of sort of blue steel photos, which don't look organic, natural, or even necessarily attractive in the way that you want to be attractive to the women on online dating sites. The third problem that I see, and honestly, this is the biggest problem, and this is my biggest gripe about photographers in general, is that they don't know how to manage the client. So what do I mean by that? Well, you know, I'm guessing most of you guys who are going to go out and get professional shots done, you're not models, right? You're probably not even necessarily comfortable in front of a camera. You may not be comfortable smiling on cue or on command. You may be self-conscious. There's a lot of stuff going on when you're out with a photographer if you're not used to that environment. And what I see is it's a photographer's job. I would argue more than 50% of a photographer's job should be managing the client, should be helping that client get in the right state so they can get a really good photo. You know, like I remember when I was, 4 or 5 years old and I'd go for a family photo with my parents. And this was in the 80s when that was a really big thing. And anyway, I'd be sitting with my parents and I don't want to smile for the camera, whatever. And this guy just comes along who works for the photographer with this little puppet on his hand and sticks it in my face and says something funny in my ear. And I go, hee, and giggle. And then they take the photo. That's managing your client. So when I'm out with guys taking photos, and by the way, I'm not like a professional photographer. I just do this because I can get good shots. But when I'm out with clients, I am getting them to laugh. I'm getting them to smile. I'm saying funny things. I'm asking them stories. I'm getting them to... I'm constantly looking for how to get them at ease, set them at ease and make them feel and look relaxed, because I see a lot of photos that guys are getting from so-called professionals that are technically great, but the guy, you can see on his face, he looks sad, he looks nervous, he looks insecure, his smile looks really disingenuous, like he doesn't want to be there. And women don't want to see that in a photo. They want to see you laughing, like properly laughing, not fake laughing. You know, they want to see you happy. They want to see you looking confident and strong. And if you don't know how to bring these feelings out of a client, then you shouldn't be charging people to get photos for an online dating profile. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, that's part of a photographer's job, not just getting technically nice photos. So having seen all this, I guess there are definitely some tips I'd give you that I give to all my clients as well when they're looking, if they're looking for a professional photographer, they're not here in the Gold Coast that I can help them. I always advise them of a couple of things. Number one, cheap. Unfortunately with photography, at least for online dating photography, cheaper or more expensive, it's not necessarily a land of you get what you pay for, unfortunately. It's definitely one thing I've noticed. There's almost no correlation between quality of photos and amount of money paid. And there is some, but not as much as you think there ought to be. You have to do your due diligence. And what I mean by that is that the cheaper a photographer is, the more you have to be sure that they can do the job that you're paying them for, because obviously they're cheaper. There is still that danger area you're going to, which brings me into my second thing. Any photographer that you approach to do your Tinder shots or your online dating shots, you should ask for examples of previous online dating profile photos they've taken. And those must be photos of guys as well, because if you're looking at photos of women they've taken, it's a very different vibe. What works for female photography, like when you're taking photos of women, is a bit different because it can be a lot more glamorous, a lot more kind of show-offy. All that kind of stuff is okay when you're taking photos of women, not so okay when you're taking photos of guys. Guys' photos need to be more candid. And you need to grab examples. And I usually say, guys, approach 2 or 3 photographers in your area and request examples. Then if you don't know how to spot what are good photos and what are poor photos, find someone who can. I mean, jump on an online photography forum. Ask a friend who's really into photography. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard, or a Facebook group, to find someone that you can throw some examples up and say, hey, what do you reckon? Give me some feedback. The next point is the photographer that I use with School of Attraction, if the guys are in Sydney, is a male, and he does a fantastic job. But I have found that if you don't really know how to spot a good photographer for online dating profiles, women will tend to do a bit of a better job. And the reason isn't that women are better photographers. The reason is you're a guy looking for someone to take photos of you that are going to be as flattering and attractive to women as possible. And so more female photographers, in a lot of photographers, they don't have me over their shoulder saying, this is the type of photo we want, this is the kind of photo we want, this is the kind of photo. We need them to use their own intuition a little bit. And so female photographers are often better at that. Now, obviously, there are plenty of good male photographers. Or the other alternative is gay photographers will also be able to help you in that regard. But, it's impolite to ask. But I've definitely found that as a trend. If you're just struggling to know how to find a good one, pick a female over a guy. I found it tends to work a bit better. The next thing I highly recommend you do is, before you go out with a photographer, do a bit of searching on Google, or if you're part of my course, bring up some examples of past profiles from inside the course. But come armed with examples of profile photos whose style you'd like to replicate. And tell the photographer, I want a photo that looks a bit like this. I want a photo that looks a bit like that. Can we get something like this? Because I know, as someone who likes photography myself, that will help me a ton if I know the kind of shot they want to emulate. The next thing you want to do or keep in mind is tell your photographer specifically, you don't need all of the shots to look like they're posed professional photos. In fact, it'd be great if a number of your photos look much more candid, like they're taken by a mate on a mobile phone, but they're still flattering. This is something that I do when I do photography sessions with guys. I make sure that they don't all look like high-end photographer shots, because you don't want a profile full of shots like that anyway. And something that you may want to do is tell them, in some of the shots, don't use a high depth of field. And what is a high depth of field? It's when the subject, normally you, is very sharp and the background is all beautiful and blurry. That's called high depth of field, and mobile phones try to copy and emulate that now. But if you remove that, the photo suddenly looks a lot less professional, and you want that for some of your photos to look less, fancy pants. So yeah, tell your photographer that, because then you can end up with a whole bunch more photos you can use than otherwise you could have added in. Because I always tell guys, in a profile, you only really want to have max of 2 professional looking shots. So yeah, if you can get some others along the way, that's great. And the last thing I've learned, which is definitely not the least, you are going to have a lot more fun and also get far better photos if you do a photo session with a professional photographer together with a friend. Because what happens is, when you go with a friend, first of all, you tend to get each other in a good mood, and you tend to talk together. You're less uncomfortable because you've got your mate there. You give each other input and ideas and thoughts. Friends can be better at helping each other laugh and get in a good mood for the camera as well. And what's more than that, if there's two of you, it usually doesn't take much longer for the photographer to do an extra set of photos for the other guy because you're on different locations. So you can almost always arrange a better price deal for two of you instead of just the one person. So that's another reason why I highly recommend doing it with at least one other friend. When we do sessions in Sydney, we do it with groups of 3 guys. It means we can get an incredible price. But it's not like you can't do that on your own. You don't need me to arrange something like that for you if you've got other friends to do it with. Now, obviously, just having good photos isn't all, because it's knowing what photos you want to have. It's knowing what to write in your profile. It's knowing how to avoid flaking and getting women out on a date, getting women interested in you, how to tease and banter online and create that attraction connection. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that I've got a School of Online Dating program, and I didn't mention, however, that you can do this program for free. Now, this is definitely a program you want to take advantage of right now, because it's not just me showing you what to do. There's a massive Facebook community. It's private. It's only for members, so no one's going to know you're in there, where guys are putting up their photos and their profiles, and myself, the other coaches, and the other advanced students are giving you guys feedback every single day. So you've got someone to literally hold your hand through this program. Did I mention you can do it for free? How does that work? Well, basically, if you sign up for the program right now during the current apocalypse, and you complete the program, you got to complete it in 30 days, then you will get an email from me saying, hey, congratulations. I hope you love the program. Would you like a full refund? Would you like a partial refund? Or would you like to leave us with all the money you paid for the program? And basically, it's not about a satisfaction guarantee. You could love the program and still get a good refund, a full refund. But basically, it's because we know a lot of people are struggling right now. Financially, it's a tough time. Lots of people losing their jobs, lots of people getting downsized, lots of financial stress. And I want to make sure that during this period, men like yourselves still have a chance to keep learning and keep getting out there and improving yourselves. And I want to reward the guys who put in the effort and complete the program. So I highly recommend you check that out by clicking the link up here or down in the comments below. Have you had a bad experience with a photographer? I'd love to know. In fact, if you've had a bad experience and you'd like to share your photos with me and even be willing to let me share them on a YouTube video, then I'd be willing to help you out myself as well and give you a little bit of one-on-one feedback on your profile for free. So let me know in the comments below what your experiences have been. As always, if you've liked my video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and of course, check out some of my other videos, because if you like this one, I reckon there's a pretty good chance you might like those as well. Take care.